Hello everyone, my name is Nilanjan Chatterjee and today we are going to talk about Jainism, the path of Ahimsa and asceticism in early Indian civilization. Okay, today's video is on Jainism. If you have missed our previous videos, we have already talked about Buddhism, Ajivikas, the Charvakas, etc. If you have missed them, please go and watch our previous videos on these topics. Okay, so let me come to the very first point, Jainism. As you can see in the slide, Jainism emerged during a profound socio-religious transformation in 6th century, 6th century BCE India, coinciding with the second urbanization period. It is already mentioned in my previous video that 6th century BCE envisaged a lot of social and economic as well as political transformation in ancient India. Alongside Buddhism and Ajivika, Jainism presented an alternative worldview, okay, challenging Vedic ritualism and caste hierarchy. It didn't just propose an alternative to Vedic ritualism, but also created some philosophical platforms for further philosophical or metaphysical developments. Okay, rejecting the authority of the Vedas and sacrificial rituals, Jainism foregrounded the concept of Ahimsa. Okay, the concept of Ahimsa, which is non-violence, self-discipline and asceticism as paths to liberation, which is called moksha. Okay, so asceticism, non-violence, that is Ahimsa, self-discipline, these were the main tools to attain liberation, that is moksha, in Jaina philosophy or Jaina way of life. Self-discipline, Ahimsa and asceticism, these are the three main instruments to attain moksha, that is liberation, in Jaina philosophy or doctrine. Before we get into our main discussion, let me tell you one thing. We, the Universal Group of Institutions, have started our admission program. If you are interested in joining our college, please visit our website. We have BA, BSc and BCom courses along with integrated UPSC and IAS coaching. Apart from that, we have Universal PU College along with CSAT and CUET training programs. Okay, so feel free to join our college, and please remember one thing: if you use the referral code of NIL009, I'm repeating, if you use our referral code of NIL009, you'll get some attractive discounts. As we can see in our very first slide, Vardhamana Mahavira, the 24th Tirthankara, who is conceived to be the pioneer of Jainism. Okay, the pioneer of Jainism. The very first point that you want to mention, royal origins. Born in Kundagrama near Vaishali into a Kshatriya Gnatrika clan, Mahavira renounced worldly life. Mahavira renounced worldly life at the age of 30. The next point is spiritual journey. Mahavira undertook 12 years of intense asceticism before attaining Kevala Jnana. That is omniscience. Okay, when you reach the final stage of Jnana, that is knowledge, that is Kevala Jnana, that is the final stage of knowledge formation in Jaina philosophy. So you can find some similarities with Buddhism, at least in the historical trajectory of these two pioneers of these two heterodox sects. One is Jainism and Buddhism. The third point is ethical framework, which is also a very important point. Vardhamana Mahavira established a religion of discipline and self-effort. Discipline and self-effort, accessible to all regardless of caste. That means, on one hand, where Brahmanism is disabling people from living a religious life, from asking spiritual questions, Jainism is giving you or offering you an alternative to experience the spiritual. Okay, and how do you do it? Through discipline and self-effort. Okay, so these are the main two means to attain liberation in Jainism. So while Jain tradition traces its lineage to 24 Tirthankaras, it was Vardhamana Mahavira, who was born in 599 BCE and passed away in 527 BCE, who systematized and popularized the faith. That means, although Mahavira Jaina or Vardhamana Mahavira was not the very first Tirthankara, he was the 24th Tirthankara, but from Vardhamana's period, Jainism is said to be popularized. That is from late 6th century BCE. Okay, his teachings rejected ritualism in favor of strict code of conduct centered on the 5 Mahavratas. Okay, the 5 Mahavratas, the Pancha Mahavratas, the great vows for ascetics, which these Jaina ascetics are supposed to maintain, with lay followers observing the same principles in moderated form called Anuvratas. So, the Tirthankaras following Mahavratas and the lay followers following Anuvratas. Now, what are these Mahavratas? The 5 great vows according to Jainism, okay, that are called Mahavratas. First is Ahimsa, that is non-violence. I've already told about it. Ahimsa, the principle of causing no harm to any living being, considered the supreme ethical virtue in Jainism. The second is Satya, that is truth, speaking what is true and beneficial, okay, avoiding falsehood in all forms, okay. Next is Asteya, that is non-stealing, taking nothing that is not freely given, okay, respecting others' possessions. The fourth one is Brahmacharya, okay, that is celibacy. See, this Brahmacharya which is there in Jaina doctrines has nothing to do with the Brahmacharya that we can find in Brahminical society, okay. Complete sexual restraint for ascetics. You do not have any sexual or physical attachment to any of your counterparts. Moderation for lay people. So, there are moderations for lay people, particularly in this regard, Brahmacharya, that is celibacy. Next is, the fifth point is aparigraha, okay, aparigraha, that is non-possessiveness. While you practice asteya, that is non-stealing, you have to also maintain aparigraha, that is limiting possessions and attachments to material things, okay. Almost asteya and aparigraha are mutually, complementing each other. So, these 5 vows form the ethical foundation of Jain practice. For ascetics, they are observed with extreme, I would say, rigor, while lay followers practice them in a moderated form known as Anuvratas, I have already mentioned. So, let's come to the next slide, that is dualism of existence, Jiva and Ajiva, according to the Jaina doctrine. Jiva, that is the living souls according to Jainism. Jain metaphysics identifies Jivas as inherently pure, something that is inherently pure, and conscious entities, something that has consciousness. Every living being, from the smallest microorganism to humans, contains a soul that is fundamentally divine but trapped in the cycle of rebirth, okay. Fundamentally divine but trapped in the cycle of rebirth. These souls are classified based on their sensory capabilities. So, there are ranges of sensory capabilities according to the Jaina doctrines ranging from one-sensed beings like plants, one-sensed beings, to 5-sensed beings like humans, okay. Each soul according to Jainism has the potential for liberation, that is moksha. Now, let's come to the question of ajiva, which is the non-living matter. Ajiva. The non-living category encompasses 5 different subcategories. Okay, for example, time, that is kala. Okay, space, that is akasha. Motion, that is dharma. Rest, that is adharma. And matter, that is pudgala. Okay, pudgala is particularly significant as it includes karmic matter that clings to the soul based on actions. What you do determines your future. This karmic matter weighs down the soul, preventing its natural tendency to rise upward to liberation. Okay, karma is kind of dragging you downwards so that you can't go upwards towards liberation. So according to Jaina philosophy, there are actually 2 spirals. Okay, one is called Utsarpini and the other one is called Avasarpini. Okay, these are the 2 opposite directional circles of life, okay, and karma and rebirth. That is called Utsarpini and Avasarpini in Jaina doctrine. Now we have come to the next slide, that is the path to liberation, that is moksha. There are 3 instruments that I want to talk about. One is Samyak Charitra, that is right conduct. The second one is Samyak Jnana, that is right knowledge. And the third one is Samyak Darshana, that is right faith. Okay, the 3 jewels, which is also called Ratnatraya. Okay, 3 jewels which are also called Ratnatraya, form the essential path to moksha in Jainism. Right faith establishes correct belief in the nature of reality and the teachings of Tirthankaras. So you stick to the right philosophy, that is Samyak Darshana. Right knowledge builds understanding of the universe and the self, how the self is connected to the universe, the ultimate philosophical question, at least in Indian context. Right conduct implements this understanding through ethical action. So how you apply your Samyak Jnana, how you manifest your Samyak Jnana, that should be under consideration of Samyak Charitra, right conduct. Okay, through austerity, detachment and inner awakening, the soul, according to Jaina philosophy, gradually sheds accumulated karma. Okay, it gradually sheds accumulated karma. It gets liberated from the bondage of karma. When completely purified, it achieves moksha and escapes the cycle of rebirth, that is samsara. The cycle of rebirth is called samsara, rising to the top of the universe to dwell in eternal bliss. Now let's come to the next slide, that is Anekantavada and Syadvada. Okay, the philosophical pillars of Jainism, Anekantavada and Syadvada. Anekantavada, the doctrine of non-absolutism. There is nothing absolute. Okay, Anek means many. So when you are denying the oneness of absolutism, that leads to Anekantavada, multiple viewpoints recognizing that reality is multifaceted, okay, and cannot be fully grasped from a single perspective. This principle emphasizes tolerance. Okay, so you are denying the fact that there is only one way to look at the world. There can be multiple ways. So Anekantavada enables that particular kind of spectrum. Relativism in understanding truth. Then comes Syadvada. Okay, that is the theory of conditional prediction, asserting that every statement, conditional prediction is a very tricky word. Okay, every statement is only partially true. Okay, that means depending on perspective and context. So once you acknowledge Anekantavada, you also admit the importance of perspectives and interpretations. So Anekantavada leads to philosophical compounds like Syadvada, which tells you that the theory, which tells you about the theory of conditional prediction. Okay, you are always conditioned by something or the other. Okay, all your statement is partially true. Okay, the Sanskrit term syat means from a certain standpoint. Okay, syat, from syat the word Syadvada comes. Okay, highlighting the conditional nature of knowledge. It depends, whatever knowledge you are formulating, it depends on your perspective. And finally, Nayavada, the doctrine of partial viewpoints, which complements the other two principles by providing methods to analyze reality from different perspectives. So you come to a conclusion by consulting different perspectives. That leads you to Nayavada, which is valid in its limited context. Okay, Nyaya also is a relative phenomenon according to Jaina philosophy. These sophisticated epistemological doctrines form the backbone of Jain logical pluralism. You call it logical pluralism. As noted by historian Romila Thapar, they represent one of India's most nuanced approaches to knowledge and truth, predating modern relativism by millennia and offering a philosophical foundation for tolerance and intellectual humility. So let's come to the next slide, that is the formation of Jain Sangha. The very first point is the Munis or monks. The Munis were basically male ascetics who follow the strictest interpretation of Jain principles, practicing extreme austerities and dedicating their lives to spiritual pursuits. Okay. Then comes the Aryikas, Aryikas, Aryikas or nuns, okay, who are basically female ascetics who, like monks or munis, renounce worldly life to pursue liberation through strict adherence to Jain principles. Okay. Then comes laymen or Shravakas. Who are the Shravakas? The laymen or Shravakas were male householders who practiced Jain principles in daily life while maintaining family and social responsibilities. So they are not expected to live an austere life like the monks or the Aryikas. Okay. Then comes the lay women. We call them Shravikas. So Shravakas and Shravikas, female householders who observe Jain ethics while fulfilling family duties. Okay, often playing crucial roles in supporting monastic communities. So I think it is clear the social formation within the Jain Sangha. Following Mahavira's death, that is also called Nirvana, at Pava in modern Bihar, Pavapuri in modern Bihar, Jainism spread through itinerant monks and lay supporters across the Ganga valley into western and southern India. The Jain Sangha, this fourfold community, as we have already seen, functioned as a structured yet flexible religious order that maintained the tradition through the centuries. So let's come to the next slide, that is the Great Schism between Digambara and Shvetambara. Who are these Digambaras and Shvetambaras? Let's come to the first point. In 4th century BCE, a famine took place in Magadha, a severe famine that resulted in the migration of monks led by Acharya Bhadrabahu to South India, which resulted in a bifurcation in the Jaina Sangha. While other Jaina saints remained in the north under Sthulabhadra. So two names we are getting to know. One is Acharya Bhadrabahu, who led a group of Jaina saints to South India during the famine, and the other one is Sthulabhadra, that a group of under whom a group of Jains remained there in North India. Okay, so Acharya Bhadrabahu, who shifted to southern India, his entire group of Jaina believers, they were labeled as Digambaras. Okay, so in 1st century CE, we see formalization of differences between Shvetambaras and Digambaras. The two groups develop distinct practices and interpretations, gradually solidifying into separate traditions. It is happening only after 1st century CE. Then in 5th century CE, we see a council at Vallabhi where Shvetambara monks compile the Jain Agamas. Agamas are a form of literature which Digambaras reject as inauthentic, okay, claiming the original scriptures were lost. So from 5th century CE, we see a constant rift, okay, between the Digambaras and the Shvetambaras. Finally, in medieval period, distinct identities have we can see developing during the medieval period, and these sects developed separate monastic lineages, temple traditions and regional strongholds while maintaining peaceful coexistence. The historical split originated by Acharya Bhadrabahu, the last Shruta Kevali. This is a very important term, Shruta Kevali, who's the knower of all Jain scriptures. Shruta Kevali means the knower of all Jain scriptures, led a migration of monks to South India, reportedly accompanied by Chandragupta Maurya. Okay. Meanwhile, Sthulabhadra allowed the northern monks to wear white robes and adopt more relaxed disciplines due to the hardship of famine. So that is how Jainism got bifurcated into two groups. One is in the southern part led by Bhadrabahu, which is known as Digambara, and the other one is led by like Sthulabhadra, which is Shvetambara, which is prevalent in northern parts of India. So let's come to the next slide. Digambara sect, the sky-clad tradition. They believe in complete renunciation. Okay, the monks, the Digambara monks, practice complete nudity and signify total renunciation of worldly attachments, including their clothes. Okay. The next is scriptural position. They reject Shvetambara Agamas as inauthentic, believing the original scriptures were lost. I have already mentioned this. The next is view on women. The Digambaras believe that women must be reborn as men to attain. The women must be reborn as men to attain moksha due to physical limitations. Okay. The next point is ascetic emphasis. Uphold. The Digambaras uphold extreme asceticism, often with more emphasis on solitary meditation. The Digambara tradition, meaning sky-clad, traces its lineage to Acharya Bhadrabahu, I have already mentioned, and later thinkers like Acharya Kunda and Samantavadra. Okay, there are other multiple. So the Digambaras considered Akhapada as its doctrinal foundation. Okay. Now let's come to the next slide, that is the Shvetambara tradition, Shvetambara sect, which is also known as the white-clad sect. They are known for being white-robed asceticism because they wear white robes. Gender equality, women can also attain liberation according to the Shvetambara philosophy, and scriptural authority. It accepts agamas as authentic. The Shvetambara tradition, meaning white-clad, regards Acharya Sthulabhadra as its founder. I have already mentioned, and over time Shvetambaras further diversified into subsects, including Murti Pujaka, that means idol worshippers, and Sthana Kavasi, that is non-idol worshippers, and Terapanthi, which each with distinct practices while maintaining core Shvetambara principles. Okay. Now let's come to the comparison between the Digambara and Shvetambara sects. First, in terms of attire, the Digambaras are naked and the Shvetambaras wear white clothes. A view on women, according to the Digambaras, women cannot attain liberation, while the Shvetambaras consider women can attain liberation. Scriptures, agamas for The Digambaras, Agamas are basically lost. You cannot compose Agamas, and Shvetambaras do accept Agamas as the primary textual source. Okay, worship, Digambaras often considered as strict, while Shvetambaras are, some groups of Shvetambaras are idol worshippers. Food, Digambaras avoid begging for cooked food, while Shvetambaras can eat pre-cooked food. Okay, language of the texts, Digambaras, most of the literature of the Digambara principles or philosophies are written either in Prakrit or Sanskrit, while Shvetambara philosophies are either written in Ardhamagadhi or in Prakrit. Okay, so now let's come to the question of Jain cosmology, a universe without creator. Okay, so according to Jainism, there are three-tiered universe. There is a three-tiered universe. Jains believe the cosmos is shaped like a human torso or an hourglass, divided into Urdhva Loka, that is the upper world for celestial beings, Madhya Loka, that is the middle world for humans and animals, and Adho Loka, that is the lower world containing 7 hells where beings suffer due to karma. Now the cyclical time, according to Jaina philosophy, time moves in vast cycles called Utsarpini and Avasarpini, the ascending time and the descending time, each lasting thousands of years, divided into 6 ages, and these ages are called aras. Okay, we are currently in the 5th ara of the descending cycle, characterized by our moral decline. Okay, I have already mentioned about the Utsarpinis and the other Avasarpinis. Now let's come to the third point, that is beyond the universe, that is the universe which is Loka is surrounded by Alokakasha, that is an infinite empty space, okay, beyond the cosmos. This cosmological vision underscores Jainism's deeply deterministic view of history and ethical evolution. Okay, let's come to the next slide, that is the 24 Tirthankaras guides across the ocean of rebirth. Jainism believes in the succession of 24 Tirthankaras or ford makers who rediscover dharma in each cosmic cycle. While Mahavira is the last, Rishabhanatha is considered the first Jaina Tirthankara mentioned in Bhagavata Purana, okay, indicating his presence in broader Indian cultural memory. So Parshvanatha, who is also considered as the 23rd Tirthankara, okay, of 8th century BCE, is often considered a historical figure. His followers already practiced 4-fold vows. Mahavira added celibacy as the 5th. Okay, I am not reminding you of the 5 vows. Now let's come to the next slide, that is royal patronage and geographical spread. Okay, in 4th century BCE, when Chandragupta Maurya embraced Jainism and migrated Karnataka, Jainism migrated to Karnataka with Bhadrabahu. 1st century BCE, when Jainism became dominant in Gujarat, Rajasthan and Malwa regions, particularly the Shvetambara Jainism. Third is 3rd century BCE, when Kharvela, the great Kalinga king, became a prominent Jain patron, okay, in eastern India. That is how in 3rd century BCE Jainism spread. The 10th century BCE, which is the 4th point, which is also considered the peak period of Jain influence in Karnataka under Ganga and Rashtrakuta patronage. When the Gangas and the Rashtrakutas were in power in Karnataka, they also patronized Jainism. So Jainism saw its kind of experience, its peak. Jain architecture, temples and cave sanctuaries, for example the Dilwara temples, Mount Abu, these Shvetambara masterpieces of marble architecture feature some of the most intricate, okay, carvings in Indian art, built between 11th and 13th century. They also showcase extraordinary craftsmanship in white marble with elaborate ceiling panels, pillars and doorways. Okay, then comes the very important Gomateshwara Shravanbelgola. Okay, this colossal 57-foot monolithic statue of Bahubali, commissioned by Ganga minister. This is very important. Chamundaraya in 983 CE stands as one of the world's largest freestanding statues from the medieval period and represents the Digambara ideal of complete renunciation. I am repeating, Gomateshwara Shravana Belgola. Okay, the third is the very important Shatrunjaya Palitana with over 900 temples crowning the sacred hill of Palitana, represents one of the most impressive concentrations of Jaina architecture in the world. The complex, rebuilt several times, embodies the Jain concept of sacred geography and pilgrimage. Okay, now let's come to the next slide, that is Jain literature and scriptural traditions. Shvetambara canon. The Shvetambaras preserve 45 agamas believed to record Mahavira's sermons, means Mahavira's preachings. These were codified during the council at Vallabhi in the 5th century CE. I have already mentioned, from the scriptural foundation of, and it formed the scriptural foundation of the Shvetambara practice. Key texts of the Shvetambaras include Acharanga Sutra, okay, the rules of the monks, Sutra Kritanga, dialogues with the other philosophical schools, and Kalpa Sutra, which is also called the biographies of the Tirthankaras. Now comes the Digambara texts. The Digambaras reject agamas, asserting they were lost, and instead rely on later compositions. Their authoritative works include Samyasara and Panchastikaya by Kunda, exploring metaphysics and path to liberation. Apart from that, the Tattvartha Sutra by Umaswati is accepted by both sects as an authoritative summary of Jaina doctrine, though with different interpretations. So, Umaswati's Tattvartha Sutra has been interpreted differently by both the Shvetambaras and the Digambaras. Okay, let's come to the next slide, that is Jainism and Buddhism, Shramanic cousins. So we can find a multiple similarities and differences in Jainism and Buddhism. For example, the founder for Jainism, Vardhamana Mahavira, which is who was the 24th Tirthankara, and Buddhism, Siddhartha Gautama. Core ideal, liberation through asceticism and ahimsa for Jainism, and for Buddhism, liberation through middle path. I have already mentioned in my previous video, that is Madhyam Pantha. Soul, the point of soul that is considered in Jainism as belief, they believe in eternal soul, that is Jiva, and Buddhism denies the notion of soul, that is Anatman. They call it Anatman. Karma, the question of karma, according to Jaina philosophy, material substance clinging to soul. That is called karma in Jaina philosophy. On the other hand, for Buddhism, volitional action influencing rebirth. Okay, deities for Jainism, they are atheistic. Gods exist according to them, but they are not liberators. Okay. On the other hand, for Buddhism, they are also atheistic, but according to them, gods exist, but they are irrelevant. Okay. Monastic rules for the Jainas, they are extremely rigorous, particularly the Digambaras, and for Buddhists, moderately rigorous, Vinaya. We can see Madhyam Pantha or middle path. Women's role for some Jaina sects restricted, particularly the Digambaras. For Buddhism, full monastic inclusion after the persuasion of Ananda. Okay. Doctrine for Jainism, Anekantavada and Syadvada, and for Buddhism, middle path, dependent origination. Scriptures for Jainism, it is Agamas and commentaries. For Buddhism, it is Tripitaka and the later Mahayana texts. Okay, historical challenges and resilience. From 12th to 14th centuries, Islamic invasions and the rise of Vaishnavism reduced the Jain influence in North India. From 15th to 17th centuries, Jain communities consolidated in Western India, particularly in Gujarat and Rajasthan. In 18th to 19th centuries, Jain merchant communities thrived under British rule, building great new temples and institutions. And 20th century, from 20th century to present, revival of scholarship, diaspora expansion, and renewed interest in Jain ethics, which is spread globally. Okay. Now we have come to the very final slides of our video, that is the modern relevance and global presence of the Jainas. Ethical influence. The Jain principle of Ahimsa influenced Mahatma Gandhi's non-violence philosophy, as we all know. Environmental ethics. The Jain environmental ethics of non-violence, rooted in non-harming of any life form, align with modern ecological concerns and suitable or sustainable living practices. Okay. Next is diaspora contribution. Jain diaspora communities remain active in education, business, philanthropy, and temple building across North America, Europe, and East Africa. And finally, academic interest, growing scholarly attention to Jain philosophy, particularly its sophisticated legal, logical systems and pluralistic approaches to truth. Okay. Finally, the enduring legacy of Jainism. One is spiritual depth, we all know about it. The artistic heritage of Jaina sculptures and temples, I've already discussed. The third point is intellectual contribution, sophisticated philosophical systems and literature, and social impact, mercantile ethics and philanthropic traditions. On one hand, they started questioning Brahmanism. They also generated mercantile ethics in modern times, in more recent times. So that is it for today. Thank you very much. If you have any query regarding Jainism, Buddhism, Charvakas, Ajivikas, feel free to ask, feel free to share your thoughts as well, and let me know what was your opinion regarding this video. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.